There's a couple of points that was raised by your talk that really needs to be thinking about, and that's the role for doctors in medical cannabis. Now, medical cannabis pharmacologically is different than every other allopathic drug because it has zero toxicity at the organ level and zero potential for fatal outcomes with overdose. So by definition, it's immeasurably safer than aspirin or paracetamol. In fact, in pharmacological terms, cannabis is safer than water because you measure these things by what we call the LD50. That means the usual dose, say a litre of water, if you have 5 or 10 litres, you may get brain swelling and die. But with cannabis, the LD50 hasn't been determined in humans. In rats, it's been estimated at 40,000. And it's a number that's just unheard of in therapeutic safety. Aspirin, for instance, is about 10 or 20. Paracetamol, the same. Iron tablets, about the same. So they rarely get more than 100 and you're already dead. But 40,000 is only on an estimate. So there's no toxicity. So it brings into question the role of these doctors. And now I don't want to be bashing the profession that kicked me out because I'm very lucky I was kicked out and I have no intention of reapplying because the people running the doctor's profession, right, and I'll say that as a pharmaceutical companies, it's not an independent scientific group. It's supported by the AMA, a right-wing bunch of retards, and the Medical Council, the one that I know in New South Wales, are just a little bit short of criminal, if not fully criminal. What they've done in, no, seriously, I'm not scoring points here. What they've done in New South Wales, at least when I was deregistered, they had to go through a process, and the process took 12 months. The first thing they do, they deem you to be impaired. This is the way they operate. So they say, oh, Katelaris was on the radio saying we should give pot to kids. He must be disordered in his thoughts. So then you're deemed to be an impaired practitioner. That's in there with the alcoholics and the pedophiles and all the other sort of the riffraff. So that puts you in the deemed impaired category, and therefore they can put conditions on your practice. They can say you can't have solo general practice, you can't prescribe this, or you can't see these sorts of people. And then as soon as you breach one of the conditions, you're in their disciplinary stream, and the inevitable outcome is deregistration. So why should these people actually have anything to do with this health bonanza? That's what I say, right? They're bloody thieves and they're uncaring, and they're profligate use of the things they've had in the past, like the antibiotics. Oh, but the patients wanted the antibiotics. These people, if they're educated, should know better than that. Right, they've been irresponsible with the prescribing. I mean, I don't want to get into a diatribe against current prescribing, but the statin drugs, if any of you saw the ABC show a little while ago, are a criminal assault on people's physiology, well supported by the doctors, not able to critically analyse the chemistry behind the whole thing and simply look at the data. Look at the doctors. That stuff on Ireland is in the public domain, yet they support compulsory fluoridation. They know about Fluvax not actually being proven to actually make an impact on your health, but they're pushing it because they're financially advantaged by that. These aren't the people that I want handing out the herb, but it's a more fundamental difference. I consider cannabis a herbal medicine. We don't need to prove to emotionally truncated dross in the TGA or in the federal government or any of these people drawing massive salaries. We've got a scientifically illiterate idiot, Gillian Skinner, who hasn't answered a letter of mine in 2 years. Right? These people don't deserve their positions. When I was young, and I don't, as I said, I don't want to make this a diatribe, we were an immigrant family. And in those days, I went to university during the Whitlam age, and not only did we not have a HECS, but we were paid a living allowance, and we had textbook allowances, and we could get on with studying. How different are things now? Everything is going poorly. There is very little to grasp onto and say, yeah, that's getting good. Our water policies, our forest policies. You know, there's only 6 countries in the world still fluoridating, and the Half-Wit Health Department is saying it's the greatest contribution to human health that there's been. These people need, I mean, not the head read, it'd be a very short book, but we need really to take control over our own lives. Now, no, seriously, that's the only way forward. In terms of supply, it matters little what these people's bills do. My policy is this: in the next 12 months, I aim to grow more cannabis than I've grown in my lifetime. And it's going to take a big effort, but I will do it. That is the only way forward, right? I have run my own trial of now nearly 25 epileptic children. We have a 80 to 90% positive response rate, often dramatic. We don't need any more delays. When the trials for epilepsy come along, I will be campaigning to have our treatment as one of the treatment arms. So we'll put ourselves up against the pharmaceutical version of cannabis or a CBD-only preparation. We're not afraid of the competition. Right? We've honed our methodology and we know what we're doing. So bring it on. We can compete on a level playing field and we can do it at a cost-controlled method. The only pharmaceutical cannabis available, CBD, is from GW Pharmaceuticals, and it costs tens of thousands, about $12,000 a year to treat a child, which we're treating for about $1,000. Once we go to an industrial scale, we can cut that right down to about half. Okay? What can I say? I want a 3-level supply. The first and the fundamental one is home growing. There can be no impingement on the right of people to grow cannabis. Now, we are prepared to challenge this legally, and one of the speakers I heard mention legal challenges if that's necessary. We're prepared for a necessity defence. Any court in the land, when it's properly presented, can see that the treatment of Dravet syndrome or Lennox-Gastaut syndrome or the whole dozens of these hideous epileptic syndromes we're clearly better than any other, and there is no alternative faced with a lethal disease than treating with a safe herbal medicine. And I feel very little doubt that I can find 12 average Australians on a jury to agree with me. And that'll be the beginning of the end of their prohibition, no matter what the legislation is. I, for one, won't be applying for a growing licence. I have a growing licence. It was given to me by the natural world, right? That's the way I see it. You either take command of your own health, you take control of your family's health. We really have to start addressing our lifestyles or we're not going to have much of a future. You'll be under the deep X-ray beam or on the chemo IV line or something like that. They have done an atrocious job of looking after this planet. It appears to me there's a conscious effort to degrade the whole environment. It's not even as if you're making random mistakes. There appears to be an ordered series of wrong decisions in terms of where we get our energy from, how we source our fibre. And this is getting inescapable, that we're being led to do. For what purpose, I really don't know. And the only way out, we're going the wrong way, have some courage, turn the course, stand up and speak up. Simon Garfunkel said it a long time ago, "Fools, they say I do not know, silence like a cancer grows." The silence has brought on this cancer epidemic. Supermarkets full of poisonous foods, sugar pushed on us by huge corporations, mind-bending brainwashing of our children for McDonald's and all the rest of it. Right? It has to end. Enough. A line in the sand. It's interesting. I'll give you a little historic anecdote and end. The Greeks, I don't know, maybe people know the history of the Second World War, but Hitler had delegated Mussolini to actually invade Greece. He says, you can deal with the Greeks, there's only 10 million of them. So Mussolini sent in these big armies from the north, and General Grivas actually counterattacked and not only pushed them back to the borders, but pushed them back much beyond the borders. And the Germans actually had to commit heavy forces, heavy mechanised forces, to take back the stuff that had been lost to the Italians. And most people don't know, but that was the critical gap that delayed the attack on Russia, and the rest is history. But what I'm telling you is this: the Germans, when they massed on the border and they had their Messerschmitts and their Panzer tanks, they dwarfed the Greek army, both in terms of manpower and armaments, and they sent a demand for surrender. And this demand for surrender was presented to the Greek Prime Minister. And the story is that he wrote "Orchi," that means no, right across the letter, and gave it back without even reading it. And for this day, the Greeks celebrate Orchi Day. That's the day we said, no, we need the same here. No more lying and crap, no more delays, no more running this world for the benefit of corporations. We do need an Orchi Day, and I hope that comes soon.